starting off, or you bringing me in? Oh,
You're in.
we're in.
Baby, we just go to it. We don't have any of that
Sometimes
30
life hits
second
you
countdown.
fast,
Yeah, it
and
comes
this is
at
the
you
result.
fast, man. It's like a Lewis scene hit across the middle onto your
Okay.
All-American tight
You
end.
don't want none of that. What you really don't want, though, especially if you're an Ohio State Sockeye, is a Javon Bullard hit. And he got an NIL deal off of taking Marvin Harrison out of that game. Suck it, Yankees. Not the New York
Mm-mm-mm.
Yankees, Midwest Yankees.
Suck all,
Not the New York
suck it
Yankees.
all, Yankees. Get out of here.
Keep the excuses coming. But thanks for having me on, guys. Been a minute. You might know me from the other show. I don't think I've appeared here too often, but either way, it's been a while since I've been live on the internet. Thanks. I'm
Oh,
here.
we got a super genius waiting in the lobby. Hold up.
Oh God, here. Okay.
It's time to class this joint up.
All right.
So now we
about
have,
time.
Shelby will be Obi-Wan
collective
Kenobi.
IQ
I'm Qui-Gon
collective
Jinn.
IQ is
We have our Darth Vader and Darth Maul here.
That
Which is
awkward
which?
moment when you've never
No,
seen
no, no.
Star
You're
Wars.
you're Darth Maul because you have red hair like Darth Maul. Dren is Darth Vader.
he's
Maul had hair.
dude,
Maul had
dude, he's
what is
No,
this?
but he had a red
Darth Maul.
face. Like, yeah.
Darth Maul, more like Jar Jar.
See, at least I respect you enough to give you an actual Sith
I-
Lord.
Listen. I get it. They're still pissed. Hold on. Stop the show. Hold on. Yep, South Carolina just scored another one. What are we up to? 120 to whatever.
So is it safe to say can we raise our hands if you beat South Carolina in football this year?
Oh. For the first time, I can't do that.
I just want to. All I know for the record, the shade is 50-50 on that one.
Yeah. That in most years it would be 100%, but Beamer is playing with some of you guys. Some teams can't handle Beamer ball.
It's a style.
He's going to come to Knoxville and get that ball shoved up his ass. Is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Speaking of Beamer ball, it should have been a shutout this year, except for their bullshit fake punt that they scored a touchdown on. Anyways,
Talk about tonight. I mean,
we're on to 2023. We have turned a new leaf. Two of our four participants here, they probably don't want to turn a new leaf. Two of the participants here most certainly are ready to turn a new leaf.
What kind of new leaf?
At this point,
It
any.
doesn't involve
like-
a Georgia national championship.
I'm one of the ones that doesn't want to or wants to. I want to turn a new leaf so I can see the new side of the leaf because it's probably going to look.
I mean that's fair. I was more of speaking in terms of had a successful 2022 season.
I'm glad you said that. Would you? I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that we had a successful 2022 season. Would the rest of you here say you had a successful 2022 season?
Oh yeah, by all decent measures, we exceeded it. What our expectations? Yeah, absolutely.
We all know the Aggies had nothing close to success, so we ain't even going to play that game.
Yeah, I mean, I would say ours was unsuccessful just because we went 6-7, but also our expectations were nowhere near what Texas A&M had, and we still finished with a better record. So kind of in that middle ground to where it's not successful by any means, but it's not catastrophic.
You had a
What
top
are
five
your expectations coming for this year?
That's true.
I'll start with the you've. I'll start like I'm the host, guys. This is not my show. I'm just here as a guest. I'm just throwing it out here. Why don't we take a quick?
Make sure you soundbite that. By the way,
I'll back off.
Not my show.
What are y'all's expectations for your football programs this year?
I have none.
Yeah, I mean, I
I'm
don't know.
choosing to not have any.
Me and Shelby are just so broken. This is why we get together, and then I get to make fun of Shelby because we beat Texas A&M and had a better record. But ultimately, it's like being the smartest dumb person. being a Florida fan. Yeah, so it's like,
Not the brightest crown in the box.
yeah, it's like, hey, yeah, at least I get to color on the page. Texas A&M had to sit at home, but yeah, I think 15-0 is my personal expectation for Florida.
Well,
Yeah.
Aggie lady, is that also going to happen in College Station? Is that the expectation? I mean, you guys did have
that
the
happens in
recruiting
College
class of
Station.
all time. Now is the year of maturity. Now
Well,
is the year of payoff.
yeah, if they were still on the team.
Oh shit, I
And
forgot.
most of them are still on the team. Thank you very much. And you
But
didn't
you
get
had
all
like 8
there.
people transferred out of that class.
We are.
Walter Nolan can't afford bus fare back in Knoxville. Okay, so let's just be real.
Oh, poor Walter.
Yeah, I'm sure Walter Nolan is struggling. I'm sure that Big Daddy Jimbo didn't write a fat check to get him out of Tennessee.
Him and Evan
It's his,
Stewart, right?
it's his brother that's the stud.
Well,
I don't know if
honestly,
he's
it's his little brother. It's his little brother. I think is a junior at Powell this year. It's gonna be the one that's gonna be but he's the real Jimbo fan.
Can I ask a serious question of the other three squares?
Yes.
I'm going to start with Aggie Land. Is Jimbo
I
on
never
the
got
hot
the answer.
seat if you see another season like you saw before, moving
God
to
bless you.
moving to Florida? Your fan, not you, your fan base. How much time are they going to give Napier if they see not much improvement from last year? And then Tennessee, one of the best quarterbacks I've seen you have since, the late 90s. If he couldn't get it done, is this new guy going to get it done? Let's go in order.
If Jimbo's not on the hot seat, I don't know what to tell you.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't imagine a world where Jimbo goes 5-7 again and doesn't get fired. Like, yeah.
Well, I mean, it got to the point last year. I said for all year there was not a job in the country that was worse than Auburn. Who would want that job? Now I'm like, who's going to want to be at A&M? Who are they going to get?
That's kind of the weird
Ethan,
thing too.
Ethan, I interrupted, so
No, you're fine. It kind of ties into what I was going to say to go back to the Napier question. If we look better, or maybe if our record isn't, if we're 7-5 or 6-6 again or whatever, but our defense isn't embarrassing every time they're on the field. We have a pretty tough schedule. The best players on our team last year, a lot of them were freshmen, so we're still pretty young. If he goes 6-6, I mean, there's going to be serious questions. I mean, it's a serious possibility he gets fired. Like, I mean, there's no sugarcoating that. I don't think that would be enough to get him fired, especially if we look improved or especially if we finish the season strong. If we start off rough, but then go on a 4-game win streak and beat, Arkansas and FSU and win the bowl game or whatever. That's the thing really about this past season, the Vanderbilt game. You flip that Vanderbilt game, which if you go back and look at it, it is one of the just most painful. I mean, we had double their yardage. They basically won on a muff punt. It was just an awful game all around. We had a 92% win expectancy, but it's still fucking Vanderbilt, right? So you flip that game, and then you're talking about probably an 8-5 season. We get a different bowl game. The whole situation unfolds differently just off of that one outcome. The whole optics of the first season change. Unfortunately, football doesn't work like that. So we follow. I'm thinking 8-4 is the only way that his seat cools off. Anything worse than that, and it's going to be an inferno in year 3 yet again.
Not to jump in your space, Tennessee, but I want to just say I think Florida State is key. If you can take those fuck sticks off their high horse, I think you get mileage.
I have never seen a program have 4 straight losing seasons, lose every ranked game.
You don't have to convince me anymore.
Barely beat 2 6-6 teams back to back,
Dude,
and then think that they are the
kid from us, and they think they're going to get Kirby Smart fired. These are the words that were said to me.
Bro.
I understand. I get it. I didn't get it before, but I get it now.
Yeah, I know that our Tennessee and Texas A&M friends here don't get the exposure. Man, they are I love each and every one. Even the Georgia fans can't hold a candle to the obnoxiousness and ignorance that is FSU's fan base. And that's saying a lot. You guys see me and Matt go at it all the time.
You deal with them. And I'm going to say the same right back at you. The obnoxious Florida fans, don't at least make sense. The Florida State fans came out of nowhere and created a scenario where not only are they going to win a natty, but they're going to get Kirby Smart fired because they flipped the kid from Moultrie, Georgia.
I wish I could find the tweet or the post or
Which
something.
is Florida State territory to begin with.
Yes.
Exactly.
All right. All right. Let's cool down here. Tennessee.
Okay, so
Question.
let me go back to what I
Greatest
was
quarterback
thinking.
I've seen you guys have since, for me, the late 90s. I mean, Hendon Hooker was the truth. I enjoyed seeing him play as an objective fan. He couldn't get it done. You telling me that what you have now is going to get it done?
I think he can get it done if the defense has a major improvement. I mean, it was the defense against South Carolina. The defense. I mean, the defense. Seriously, they couldn't have tackled me.
I mean, it was kind of the defense all season long. We have the same kind of problem.
But they had moments. They had moments of brilliance. They played really well against Kentucky. They were in Will Levis's head all damn night against Kentucky. They took advantage of Clay Klubnik's not being ready for that game. He was not ready for that. I don't care how good he was in high school. He was not ready for the Orange Bowl. He's not Trevor Lawrence. It just wasn't going to happen.
Which was definitely a failure by Jimbo or Dabo because he should have pulled the plug on DJU after about the 5th game.
Let me clarify. I didn't mean get it done against South Carolina or Kentucky. I meant, is this guy going to take you into Tuscaloosa and get something done? Is this guy going to get done against Georgia?
Who is the guy?
Joe Milton.
JM3. Bazooka Joe Milton. I think he can. I think Iamaleava can once he gets settled in. I mean, he had neither one of them set the world on fire at the spring game. I really didn't expect him to. In fact, it was the third string quarterback, Gaston Moore, the kid that came from UCF with Heupel that probably had the best game. The best moment of the game offensively was a ball that Nico threw in the third quarter when he rolled to his right and threw the ball 40 yards down the field, put it right over a kid's shoulder on the sideline. I mean, it was a really beautiful ball. But Milton has shown what he can do. He definitely. I mean, he managed the game really well against Clemson. He did not make any mistakes. They've got. Of course, getting the touch on the ball is going to be the big thing for him. But that defense has got, and we've got some really good recruits. Especially the D line has always been pretty sound. It's the back end that's been killing us. It's been the most inconsistent, and so I think, and we've got some. We can get after the quarterback. I have no question about that. It's just can we stop the pass? Because even in the games we won, I mean, AR-15 threw for what 360 against us.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm pretty sure he had over 400.
I mean, it was enough. It was enough, and
to pucker some buttholes.
Bryce put on the best dancing display in Neyland Stadium since Jackson in '84. And I mean not Bo Jackson, Michael Jackson.
Yeah, you guys made Anthony Richardson look like Michael Vick.
We could not get Bryce Young on the ground in that game. So
that's
the fact he just
that's his thing. So he's done that. That's what he's known for. I'm glad you brought up spring ball because I believe I was told that tonight we talked some spring ball. But I want to say we got to get some consistency on this, and I can't find it anywhere because it's.
Well, hold on. Before we change gears, let me ask you, Mr. Ducati, how are you feeling about Mike Bobo taking over for Jeff Monken?
I don't know yet. I don't know. How can I know this?
He's been your offensive coordinator for like 10 years.
Well, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, 11 years ago. I mean, all right, are you going to let me answer? Or you want to talk for me?
Hey, man.
I got you.
Let's hear it.
When he left Georgia, his offenses at that time actually averaged, not by much, but more points than Todd Monken's did. He was hanging. We were 41.7, 41.8 under Monken, winning natties. Bobo was hitting the 42.3. Okay. 10 years ago, 12 years ago. It's a mixed bag because he did okay. he was all right. Aaron Murray, Matt Stafford, we were okay. Under Mark Richt, we just couldn't, when it counted, we couldn't stop anything. Willie Martinez, Todd Grantham.
But
You
I
know
mean,
where I'm going.
we've
So
seen Mike Bobo as an offensive coordinator
after he
since then.
left was his resume after he left Georgia was not great. Not great, right? Colorado State, meh. Offensive coordinator at South Carolina, meh. Offensive coordinator at Auburn, meh. The only thing they could do, though, if you look at the numbers, was score. I don't know how to answer it yet. If you're gonna, and here this ties into my point. How much stock are we gonna put into a spring game? Do you want me to pin all of my answer on what I saw in the spring? Then I'm ecstatic because it looked like a Monken offense, spreading the ball around, 5 guys touching it, tight ends are included, complicated and hard to defend run schemes. Like, what else do you want me to say? Until I see it against SEC opponents, until I see it in a real game that matters, it's tough for me to answer that question. We were okay in the Richt era under Bobo. Okay. Were we elite? Yeah. Right under. Am I worried? No.
That's fair. That's fair analysis. I can agree with all that. I mean, and you guys definitely have better horses now than you had then to make up for some of that.
Did I know for a fact Bobo had some quarterbacks, but he didn't have Brock Bowers.
He didn't have Brock Bowers. He
didn't have running backs 4 deep that are going to go to the NFL or at least get a hard look.
Didn't he have like Noshawn Marino and Todd Gurley and Nick Chubb and
yeah? Tell me who was after that.
After who?
Noshawn. Tell me who was the next.
You
can't. Or if you can, you have to like
isn't that the Nick Chubb and Todd Gurley and
no, that was after. He recruited them, but that was after.
You just had to tell you who's after.
He couldn't keep Nick Chubb.
You said to tell you who came after Noshawn Marino.
No, he means like in the depth chart.
No, in the
got you.
Sorry
Okay,
if I was unclear.
No. I misunderstood.
You can tell me the second and third string running backs behind Noshawn Marino. I'll give you props here. You can't because that's what we had. That's it. We had that guy.
Mm-hmm.
We had after Noshawn, it was shit. He brought in Gurley and Marshall and those guys, but it was like one dude. Now we've got you've got.
Hold on, we got a Tater coming in.
Howdy, friends.
Oh, man.
Howdy.
It's like I'm funny, and the bees and the hornets can't resist. I was just
we all missed each other. Like
Vandy season tickets are on sale, Tater. I just got the email today.
Oh. Joy.
So you joined us at a pretty good time. We were just about to shift gears off of Georgia's 2011 running back death chart.
Yeah, so the bigger point was, does he have the same toys to play with that he had 12 years ago? No, he's got better toys. So let's see what happens. I mean, this is the deepest our receiver group's ever been. Not ever, but ever in the Kirby era by far. I mean, we got dudes that are,
Well, hell, you got the 2 best wide receiver transfers in the country.
What can he do? But Bobo never got a nod for his complicated pass schemes. Bobo gets credit from X and O guys about his run schemes. And if you want to go back, I mean, our running game has been sound, but have you ever I think the joke was, well, Georgia's running game has fallen off. Now it's just Stetson Bennett rolling out, making plays. Stetson Bennett, circus catches with Bowers, circus catches with Washington, circus catches with McConkey. Have you guys been fearful of our running game in the last 2 years? Like fearful? I haven't.
I mean, the only thing I felt like Georgia's offense has been very good, but most importantly, very consistent. The thing that I've always been worried about when we've played Georgia, even in 2020, when we were lighting everybody up, was the defense. Your defense gives your offense short fields. You get great field position. You don't turn the ball over. It doesn't matter running, passing, screen passes. I mean, that was kind of the Monken thing, right? What the screen passes, the short slants, the things that are safe, efficient, and when you have studs at tight end, wide receiver, running back, you get the ball in space and let them do their thing. Like Tennessee has a more vertical game to where you take advantage of matchups and you spread the field out and you throw it over the top. Monken was all about taking advantage of Stetson Bennett's accuracy and his mobility, and let's get the ball out of our hands quickly and make some magic happen. So to me, neither part of the offense was ever really scary. It just did its job. And then the defense just mashed you into the ground. And if you turn the ball over, it was almost, I mean, even in our game last year, right? Like you guys got up big, we cut it down to 28-20. And then at that point, you're like, okay, then we turn the ball over. And then you blink again and it's 42-28 or 20. And you're like, well, that was fun for the 2 minutes that lasted. Story of my life.
So Mitch made a good Mitch, our beloved, leader,
Our beloved leader,
our leader. Georgia's offense the last 2 years, he says, was a very souped up and nice looking functional Bronco. Now this year you may finally get to see what happens when Kirby has the keys to a Ferrari. I don't know what that means, but I think it's a scary thought. If that's the case, if I'm right, it's going to be a long season for everybody in this room should you choose to cross paths.
I think that is completely flip-flopped and evidenced by the fact that Monken is now an NFL offensive coordinator again, and you're back to Mike Bobo. I think Mike Bobo can get the job done, but it's not Ferrari.
Mitch was talking more about. I believe. Let me clarify. I think Mitch was talking more about the players instead of a Stetson Bennett, which is a souped-up Bronco that can take on the Baja. Now you're going to have a Carson Beck. If you watched the spring game, and I don't expect that any of you did, but if you did, you know what you saw. No more circus catches. No more behind. The air was right. The touch was right. The strength was right. The throws were right. If he needed to throw a rope, it was there. If he needed to float it, it was there. We have a guy that's a quarterback instead of a guy who developed into what are we calling Stetson Bennett now? 4th round quarterback that was just a really good football player, a good story.
He's a good game manager.
Right, he's a Bronco, right? A nice Bronco. I'm talking about like a fucking Eddie Bauer.
I mean, we could always just go with a Ram, right?
Hey.
But now we got Mr. Football from Florida. We got Cankles. This guy almost cost you Anthony Richardson. Now we got a guy who was born to play quarterback. Let's see what it looks like. I don't know. I don't know enough.
So let's shift gears before we get too bogged down in this. To circle back to the spring game, before we get started, how do you all feel about the spring game? What kind of, to me, I do not give 2 shits about the spring game. I think that I watched Auburn start their spring game 24-0 and then award points for nonsense. I watched Oklahoma have their spring game be like 55-41 in the first quarter with no touchdown scored or something. I do not care about the spring game at all. Like our spring game, literally the offensive nor defensive coordinator, or the defensive coordinator called plays for both defenses, but we had assistants calling offense for both teams. So it's like, if you have 3rd string walk-ons going up against first team defensive backs, and then, a defender breathes on the quarterback and it's a sack. To me, I just don't put any credibility into it at all. But we also got dragged for our spring game, so it's easy for me to say that. But I wanted to hear the rest of the esteemed panel's opinion on it.
Well, for me, I mean, I had never been to the Orange and White game. I've been going to regular season games for 40 years, over 40 years. But I had never seen the Orange and White game, so I wanted to go just to say I could go. And I mean, it's like I honestly didn't expect much. Wasn't going to be bowled over or going to be dismayed either way. There were some things, like I said, I like what I saw. I mean, Nico threw a really nice ball in the 3rd quarter. We had some nice catches. The defense looked really good. There were a couple of turnovers. One was receiver's fault. He put the ball on the carpet. The other one, The other one, they both actually were both receivers' fault. The receiver just didn't catch the ball, and the kid made a nice play and got a pick. So everybody looked okay. They didn't look spectacular. But I didn't expect them to. It's going to come down to what's going to happen. What are we going to get over the summer in the transfer portal, and how are we going to develop the kids who aren't coming in until July or August? We're all day long. We're a 10-win team next year. I mean, if we hit 11 wins, I'll be over the moon. But I don't. It's Mrs. Tater. Mrs. Tater's on the scene. Had to bring
She's
it
coming
up.
to talk Florida State.
Had to give
No.
her a shout. Had to give her a shout. Even though she didn't hear it. It kind of is what it is. This is really kind of a transition year. I'm not. I think we can beat Alabama at Alabama. I think Alabama is in a weaker position than anybody. I mean, if anybody's got anything to worry about after a spring game, Bama's got something to worry about this.
What was that? What was Save That Soundbite? Who was saying that earlier? We're gonna have to.
I think no way. I think we can go in the Tuscaloosa. I really do. I think Bama's probably who's going to play quarterback for Bama?
Tyler Buchner.
I don't know. That's going to be. I mean, look. The West is going to be a lot more wide open this year. I think.
I remember this. I remember how this felt. I want you. No, I want you to do it, Dren. I'm on your side. I remember how this felt. Like back, after that hobnail boot, we thought we could do anything. We thought it was here. We thought we had arrived. And I hope your journey with Heupel goes better than our journey with Rick. But I remember being in this. I remember having that hope. Like, oh yeah, shit. Who's Florida? They only beat us like 9 of the last 10 years. We got this. I remember this.
Simpler times. Better times.
I hope the A&M Tennessee game goes as well as it did last time we played. That was fun.
When's the last time y'all played?
2016.
Yep, my junior year.
Dobbs' senior year. And like I said, hey, there's a bedroom in here in Knoxville for you. Come on.
I'm thinking about it. I'm considering it.
Whether or not we can get tickets is a different story. But I can at least get you within walking distance.
But honestly, watching the A&M spring game, if we were going off spring game, Max Johnson starts. So that tells you how much you can take from the spring game.
Yeah.
And he won't. It'll be Connor.
Wasn't he the projected first overall pick before he got injured? That's always fun to go back and look at just how awfully wrong some of the preseason mock drafts are. Because it reminded me when we were talking about Joe Milton earlier. Some of the guys in Joe Milton's recruiting class, this has been a fun thing I've done recently with guys like Hendon Hooker and some of the older luminaries of college football. So you have Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Micah Parsons, Tyson Campbell. Like, don't these guys feel like they left college football? Like, these guys are in their third or fourth years in college or in the NFL. And now we have guys taking over as starters for teams. And it's like, obviously, they're going to be probably better than the 18-year-olds they're competing against because their peers are professionals now. And that COVID year, I'm so ready for it to go away because it's like, and I'm not trying to take shots at anybody. Like, I know we've all made our jokes about people being old and all that stuff. I just feel like Graham Mertz, I mean, he's an old guy now, right? Like, these guys need to get on with their lives. Like, it's time to go sell insurance or go to the pros. Like, shit or get off the pot.
But why?
We have one of those, but he was
Yeah, that
injured
was
last year.
Like, I don't know that. I mean, I don't know that if you were to put them side by side and give them their entire career side by side, that Stetson Bennett would be better than Justin Fields at playing quarterback. I don't know that. Age, I don't know. I don't know that a 25-year-old Justin Fields or a 25-year-old Stetson Bennett would be better than a 20-year-old Justin Fields. I mean,
No, but that's what I'm saying. But I'm saying the natural progression for the first 140 years of college football has been 18-year-old enrolls in college, generally has a year to sit. 19-year-old then plays college football a year or two. Now a 21-year-old, 22-year-old in some cases goes to the pros. Because of the COVID year, because of the extra red shirts, because of all the different things that have gone on, you have guys that are 24, 25. There's a guy that played for, was it Baylor, that was like 29.
so what was the excuse for Winky?
He played baseball.
Yeah,
He
played
played
Major League.
baseball.
He's like
Yeah,
35.
he was in the he was 27 when he finally started.
And he's not
It's
the
like-
only one. Like, there's been
he
some
was
old
in-
dudes playing.
Brandon Whedon is the oldest first round draft pick, at least for quarterback. There may have been another one, but I think he was like 26 or 27 because he was in the minor league baseball system.
Winky was in the Blue Jays organization for a long
Yeah.
time.
Russell Wilson played minor league ball too, didn't he? Or was that after?
Yeah, but he was
I
still
think-
like
he
approximately age.
played summer. He
appropriate.
played summer league. He was
Yeah,
summer league guy.
these guys spent like 4 or 5 years
Oh,
in
yeah,
the
yeah.
minors and then said, you know what? Now that I'm actually a fully developed man, what if I go and compete against these boys?
Yeah, they went to a professional organization and came back. I would rag more on those situations than I would the COVID guys.
Well, I would too. They just aren't really relevant now because it's been 10 to 20 years ago.
It's always relevant to rag on Winky.
Hey, trust me,
Come on, guy.
Considering.
Come on.
One of the things that we're not considering is you've also got a class of kids that came in that were recruited as seniors during that COVID year that never took official visits to the actual school that they committed to.
No spring ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Taven Jackson was third string quarterback for Tennessee this year. Went back home to Indiana. I wish him all the luck in the world. He's a great kid. I wish we could have kept him, but he never took an official visit to UT. He signed without actually ever coming on campus because he could.
Well, and there were a few kids.
And there's an entire generation like that.
Yeah, there were kids from California where they had no football season at all their senior year that skipped the season playing, from their junior to senior in high school too. So,
and those guys are now. This is going to be their sort of draft eligible year.
Yeah.
So starting with this year, this should be the last year that we have not. I want to say the exception, but there's such a high quantity of people that this applies to. Whereas we can point out Chris Winky, we can put out Brandon Wheaton. Now there's guys all across the roster who should
Quincy
be
Carter.
These guys should be in their first, second, third year in the league. Instead, they're playing college football against 17 and 18-year-olds. And it's like, to me, that just doesn't sit right. And I mean, we have guys on our roster who are like that. Like everybody does. But it used to be like the exception to the rule. And now you have 10% of a roster might be guys that are 5th, 6th, 7th year seniors. And I mean, a 25-year-old man who had, think about it. I mean, you've had 7 years in college sports and conditioning. Like that's not comparable to somebody who's had 2 years.
Pretty much acting like an 18-year-old the entire time and had the body of an 18-year-old. So I'm going to give Stetson a pass on all of this. But the rest of them, good examples.
The reason why it matters, Adrian, is because once you hit college, you get into the dietitians, you get into the weight room, you get into the strength and conditioning programs that are leaps and bounds better than anything even the best high schools are dealing with. It's a 24/7 thing now, and you get all of your food taken care of. You're getting monitored, you're getting weighed, you're getting your fat percentages done, all of this stuff. You look at the transformation between a freshman and a sophomore in college, and a lot of guys put on 20 to 25 pounds of muscle. Like they improve their 40 times, they improve their endurance. Now you just keep building on that. Like you may get a 20% gain from freshman to sophomore, and it might start to kind of taper off. But after your 6th year, you're still hitting gains. Like to me, and Georgia, this doesn't really apply to you guys because you guys have put so many people in the league. Clemson, it's just one of those things that we're kind of moving past that really weird time period and getting back to more normalcy. And me personally, I just can't wait for it. I mean, it doesn't sit right to me.
Do you think those games continue when you get to the league? Like when you're fresh, there's
I think they have
high
to.
school, then there's the college gains, and then do you think once you get to the NFL and you're professional,
If you don't get better,
I think once you hit the pros, it's a lot more about mental. I think that. Oh, go ahead, Mikey.
A lot of the pro stuff also, it's the players' responsibility to do as well. Like whereas you are in college and you have your dietitian and all this and stuff, a lot of the pro players are like, it's up to them to make sure their diet is, their exercise regimen's good and stuff like that. I grew up. Mitch and I grew up with the Phillips that played Georgia defensive end. Played at Redskins, Seahawks, Bears. I think he was like when he graduated high school in 1992. He was 6'6" and weighed maybe 215 pounds. And by the time he started as a freshman, game one at Georgia, he was still 6'6", but he was like 285. My screen went away. What happened?
You're good.
You're still here for me.
Yeah. So he had put on like 70 pounds from weight room dietitian. Then when he went to the league and the Seahawks drafted him, he lost like 50 pounds because he didn't have that same group behind him pushing his diet and things. And so then he got it on his own, and now he's probably 50 now, and he's still 6'6", obviously. Body fat's 1%. He's like a power lifter and stuff. It's ridiculous, but that's. But I think the onus of being successful as a pro falls here more than it does the system that they have in college. So,
and in college, you have limitations on how much time a player can actually spend in the weight room, in the film room, practicing around coaches, what time of the year they can do things. During the summer, college players can't be around coaches. Like they can be around their strength and conditioning coach, and then that's it. Like they can't get coached during the summer. And
they can't be like Chad Okozenko actually living in the football facility.
Yeah, exactly. Like and so like that NCAA mandated barrier is removed once you get to the NFL. And like Mikey's saying, it becomes a lot more on your personality, on who you are. And so that's why you can see guys actually continue to make gains. But generally, I mean, the average life career span for an NFL player is 3 to 4 years. So by the time they hit the pros, they're at their physical peaks. And a very small percentage of players continue to improve themselves mentally and physically and stay on top of things to have prolonged careers. So, I mean, I think once you hit the pros, it's 90% mental. Like, and I think that's why a lot of people kind of balk at college football basically being a minor league for the NFL, because that's really what it is. I mean, you're basically, before NIL, you were getting kids to come in for free, hammer their body, get them in shape, work them out, train them up, and then 5% of them make it through the filter to the pros, and then the rest go on. And they get a college degree out of it and some cool swag and some nice experiences. But, I mean, that's why I'm all about NIL. I mean, I think it's great for kids because they've basically been getting ripped off for 120 years.
So that's what Johnny Manziel would be thinking right now.
Yeah. Old rich boy.
Yeah.
So how was Clemson's spring game, Mikey?
Yeah, Mikey.
Freshman defensive are studs. I
don't know, man. Them Knowles is heck. Or so I've been told. Them Knowles is heck.
Mikey can't say anything because
I've been told.
His wife's standing around, so he can't talk too much shit about FSU right now. She'll slap him upside the head.
She legitimately does not care about Florida State.
Yeah, that's the vibe I've gotten when I've talked to her. She's like, I graduated from FSU, don't care.
Are y'all going to beat Florida State and do something this year, or are their prognostications going to come true that they are back? They are a top 5, not just this year, but all time, and the Noles are about to take it. That's what I've been hearing and what I've been peppered with. I had spears sticking out of my fucking forehead. After they,
Didn't
or
they
2 weeks ago, they
tell
flipped Landon Thomas, and here they come. Like, these people haven't worn a Seminole color in 15 years. And now all of a sudden they're like, bah, da, boo, da, boo, da, boo. Here we go.
Well, they have to come to our house.
Go.
They have to come to our house this year, which until the last game of last season meant something.
Mhm.
But yeah,
The Coots will get it. The Coots
You
got us
know,
at 19.
FSU hasn't beaten Clemson since Jameis Winston was their quarterback. Like,
do
I
you
know
know,
streaks are made to be broken and all that fun stuff, but like,
here's a better
here-
one for you. Here's a better one for you. That last time they beat Clemson, Jameis Winston was sitting on the bench because he was did.
He was eating crab legs.
yeah.
Oh, we got a
No.
hurricane in the comments.
No. They were not.
And that's coming
I
from
don't even know why I showed that.
Stockholm syndrome is what that is.
That's what happens when you give up 45.
That's-
When you let FSU beat you 45-3 in your own
Stockholm
place.
syndrome. They
Listen,
won.
didn't the Hurricanes lose to the Aggies? That tells you.
They lost to the Aggies and
the
MTSU.
best Florida team.
They sure did.
Hey, go Blue Raiders! Come on.
Hey, I
Because
was
that's
rooting for them.
The best football team in Florida. That's like being the least skanky stripper at club at Cafe Risque in Micanopy.
Hey, put some respect on Cafe Risque, sir.
Yeah.
I've been to Cafe Risque.
There are very few places where you can get a great dinner and then go out to eat.
Oh God!
And this has been
and-
SEC
and-
bias.
And we are canceled.
And on that note, gentlemen, I gotta go. Lady and gentlemen, I have to go to bed. So, thanks for having me on. It's been a
Hey, man, it was a good time.
I've had a long day, and I'll catch y'all ass on the flip side.
We'll see you
All right,
November
See you,
8th,
buddy.
big boy.
See you, Dren. Take care, bud.
Yeah, you saw he ran when I said that. He ran. He was scared. He saw it.
I just think that's kind of weird that
I'm just gonna leave this up here for the rest of our show.
no,
dude.
no,
Dude.
it's not actually. A good
Miami lost to A&M. That's all
We
I
don't-
have to say.
I
about
know
it.
I know this guy personally, but we went to high school together.
Look.
So don't be too mean to him. But I'm gonna leave this comment up just so that anybody else can be mean to him.
The SEC does not send hardly nobody to the draft. We have, we are woefully behind when it comes to national championships in college football. We never get talked about by ESPN or any of the CBS, any of them. Nobody. It's just we're an afterthought to the. I wonder what conference does Mr. Carr?
He's a Miami fan,
Oh,
and he actually said that, like he unprovoked, admitted to being a Miami fan in 2023.
that was a legitimate question in 1992. But in 2023,
Had to think about it.
I'm sorry. I don't like that's not even it's so obvious now what the SEC is that I've given up on being like SEC. Fuck y'all. I used to pull for y'all until we finally we kicked everybody else out. Now it's just us. So now we can get back to the old days where we just hate each other. Because I used to be.
I mean, I am on record.
Because there was a palpable disrespect in the 2000s when USC and Ohio State, Miami, and Nebraska kind of was still in it, but we already knew the truth. And then Urban Meyer kind of wedged the door open, and then Nick Saban, say hello to my little friend, and blew it open, and then it was just SEC, 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 SEC all the time in your face. There's nothing you can do about it.
I changed my mind. I have a new comment that I'm leaving on the screen.
Is that your wife?
Yeah.
It's okay. I welcome it now. I welcome it. Good. Thank you. Whatever I can do for you.
It fuels the hatred. But yeah, I mean, I think that in the past few years, how deep is the SEC? The SEC is so deep that the 11th best SEC team beat Miami.
Yeah.
That you could line up the bowl record against pretty much anybody. I mean, you go and look and compare, and we put up stinkers. We have bad teams that get into bowl games. I mean, it happens. But when you compare mid to mid, like Florida, everybody made fun of it. We played a top 10 Oregon State team. Should Florida beat Oregon State? Of course. Hell yeah. We were 6-6 though. Like Oregon State, this was the fucking game of their lives. They were the best season they've had in 25 years. And then we get smashed because half our team's gone. And that's what happens to almost every shitty SEC team that goes to a shitty bowl game, right? Like when you go to a good bowl game like Georgia, Clemson, Tennessee, their actual starters are actually playing the game. Everybody else in the SEC is like, okay, well, we have 7 guys that are going to get drafted. Okay, well, they're going to sit out. I mean, that's what's going to. Who gives a shit about the Gasparilla Bowl, right? And you spread that out. Yeah, that's true.
It's getting to the point now where we're like, we poo-poo if we go to a New Year's Six Bowl sometime. Not all the time, but sometimes. What was it, 18? When we were like, yeah, man, they fucked up. We should have gone to the Natty. And we played Texas and just kind of was like lackadaisical and aloof. Texas beat us. Like, goes to your point. We're at the point now where we go to games that other conferences and other fan bases drool over, and we don't shit the bed. We don't even get out of bed.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we're like, hit the snooze button, man. Fuck this, man.
I mean, it's not only that, but you're talking about teams that have just gone through a gauntlet. So this is the thing, right? The top half of the conference are all bangers. We're talking about 7 teams. Who you got? South Carolina, you got Florida beat Florida literally was 6-6 and beat the Pac-12 champion. Like that this was not even anywhere close to a good Florida team, and first game of the season beat a super experienced top 10 Utah that won the Pac-12. Right? Like Texas A&M goes in. This was an awful Texas A&M team, still beat Miami. Like that LSU game, I can promise you.
Damn near beat Alabama.
Oh, that was a fun time. What a time to be alive.
We have no depth. I mean,
last year
they feel like they have to grasp for straws every day now, like we did in the early 2000s when we couldn't get no respect. We couldn't get over in the BCS. And Saban started it in 2003, and then Urban Meyer. I remember being there like, man, this is bullshit, man. Everybody loves the Pac-12 and the Big Ten, man. This is bullshit.
Like that 06 team that we demolished Ohio State. People wanted an actual rematch. They wanted Ohio State Michigan rematch. And they were like, oh, this Florida team, they lost to Auburn. They're no good. This was the best game. This game of the century. They should play again. And what happens? Florida went out there and smacked that ass. I mean, it was 41-14. Then the next year, a 2-loss LSU team, 2 losses. Like that was the year that USF was number 2. You had Rutgers number 2.
7, right? 07 was the greatest season. Yeah. It was the greatest.
Like I mean, and then a 2-loss team wins the national championship. Like whoever would think that would happen,
What about the year that Auburn beat everybody by like 10 touchdowns, and then was that
was 03, wasn't it? Or 3 or 4?
USC and Texas, I want to say, or something was the national
something like that, yeah.
Or Oklahoma, USC maybe, but
they were like 12-0 or something. Yeah. Auburn was, but they were like, I think, didn't they have a bowl ban?
It was 04, and that was the Cadillac Williams year.
Yeah, no, it was their first year back from the ban.
That was the year that I told people in California Auburn would beat the brakes off of Matt Leinart and Reggie Bush, and they were like, no way, and the media agreed, and of course set up that match. There's no doubt in my mind Auburn would have won, or it would have been very much like when USC played Texas, and if Auburn had lost, it would have been in that fashion. Like Auburn had a squad. The SEC had squads. We still do. We still got squads. Don't get me. Let's not get this twisted. We're not talking about the days of yore. We are now the Kings, but back then we were still the Kings. We just couldn't break through the the media bias, and I don't understand that because Alabama's always been a blue blood. Florida in the '90s set the world on fire, right? LSU in the 2000s they won 2 natties, 2,
Mm-hmm.
2.
I mean, LSU won 3 natties in 11 years, right? Like 03, 07, and 2011. No, they didn't win in 2011. They lost
No,
in 2011.
they got the 2 in
Yeah.
the Les Miles, or I'm sorry, they got 1 Saban, 1 Les Miles, and then they got 1 in 19. But
Yeah,
still,
the
I mean,
2 lost team was Les Miles in
these
07.
are
Yeah.
this is a conference with programs that just, even if they don't get it, they're at the door.
So to go back to the previous point, though, so I think in the SEC, at any given time, you have 3 teams that have a legitimate push for a CFP berth, right? Like last year, I think you could say it was Georgia, obviously, Alabama. But really, there was 4: Tennessee, and then LSU. Until LSU lost to Texas A&M, they had a legitimate path into the CFP. If Tennessee had beaten South Carolina, they probably would have been right there looking in. I mean, I don't know if they would have made it, but they would have had a legitimate point to be in there. So I think and it rotates,
Hey,
right?
Did you guys hear that? Spencer Rattler just threw for another touchdown on Tennessee.
Oh, damn. Hold on. Yeah, he right.
So, I mean, I think this is kind of the stratification that you have to deal with in the SEC, to where, a couple of years ago, if we go back to 2020, you had Texas A&M, you had Florida, you had Georgia, you had Alabama. Like, that's 4 teams that all had legitimate pushes towards the end of the season and could have gotten into the CFP. 2021, obviously, you had Georgia and Bama. That might have been it that year. And then last year, you kind of had things moving around. And then I think going forward, no, spring games do not matter. We are all in agreement that spring games do not matter, and they should.
I want to get some consistency on that, because here's the deal. When your team looks like shit, for a lot of fans, it's just a spring game. It don't matter. But then those same fans sometimes, when their team looks like world beaters, all of a sudden, this is it. We're going to win a natty based on this game. So
Yep.
I want to get everybody on the record. I want it in the internet. I want it recorded. You got to make a choice, because I don't want to see no flip-flopping, because you see it a lot. You see it mostly with Bama fans. And years where they've looked like killers, oh, it's natty time. Years where they look like shit, like this year, it don't matter. I want to get some consistency on this subject. I, for one, say have fun with it. The coaches and the players, that's for them to deal with. The spring game, it's a scrimmage. They see things and they worry about things we don't know about. Okay, that's their part. We should just have fun, take the good with the bad. It doesn't really matter. Just enjoy it. It's partly for us, but it's more for them. But if you're going to come in here and start making prognostications based on spring games, I want to see consistency. If your team looks like shit, you're going 0-12. If your team looks like world beaters, you're still going 0-12. It doesn't matter, or it does. I don't want to see this.
Put me on the record as saying spring games are glorified practices, and there are a legitimate group of coaches who run their spring game like nothing more than a glorified practice in front of fans, to where you have 4 15-minute quarters. You don't get extra points for anything. You don't get none of that bullshit. I am on the record saying that coaches who treat the spring game like if you want to have fun with it, have fun with it. I'm not saying that you can't have fun with it. If you want to go crazy like Auburn and Oklahoma do, all for it. I think that it means absolutely jack shit. And I think that coaches who do kind of gimmicky things like Miami and Oklahoma did, to where you get 3 points for a punt and 2 points for a tackle for loss or whatever, I think that those coaches know that 95% of their fans are not watching the spring game, and all they're going to do is look at the score, and they're going to see basketball scores and think that they're going to kill it that year. And I think coaches know that, and that's the only logical purpose I can think of for doing that, right? Like, what's the point of doing something so bizarre besides the fact you want to intentionally deceive casual fans who aren't paying
Also
attention?
for ticket sales. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's
Oh
not even
shit,
ticket
man, we
sales.
scored 45. Damn. Maybe get them season tickets. We're gonna be fired this year. Like that kind of thing.
I mean, okay, that's I could see that. Yeah, that, I mean, I last year Florida spring game scores 34-0, right? Like, we thought, okay, maybe we're gonna be able to get this thing going again. We got Anthony Richardson, things are gonna be humming. The only thing we should have taken from that was that our defense sucked. Like,
Yep.
we thought that told us something about our team, our offense. No, it just meant our defense sucked, and that's the only thing we should have taken away from it.
You look at your spring game and it's one way on one team, you need to be worried. Like Florida State, I think I glanced at the score and I don't remember the number because I don't care, but it was something like it was like it was like 37-0 or 42-0, and I'm like, that's not good. Where's
Mhm.
your depth? What are the other kids doing? What's the other side of the ball doing? These are guys that are going to need to be able to perform. You can't even do it here in a scrimmage. It's
Well,
not. You want to see an even. You want to see a tug of war at the very least. Even
Mhm.
though I'm on the record, spring games don't matter in terms of your season. But if you're going to take anything from them, you need to see some. You need to see some of this, not this.
Mhm.
Well, and to that point, 2018 Clemson, we had Kelly Johnson, Trevor Lawrence, Hunter Johnson was there, a couple of other like top 10 national quarterback recruits and everything, and they were all on display in that spring game, and they all looked amazing. And by the end of that season, only one of them was still on the roster.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of temper those feelings for the fan base by not showing off everything, because especially now they'll get sniped by another program. So you got to keep some folks under wraps, I think.
Yep, I agree with that as well. I think that nowadays, I mean, you don't want your true freshman or redshirt freshman that you've had stashed on your bench for a year who's now going to be a contributor. You get a team like Bama or Georgia or USC or some team that's saying, "Hey, we're going to contend this year," right? Like, they will say, tamper with the kid and say, "Look, man, you want to make 200 grand? We need a defensive end. You'd be our start defensive end, and even if you're not this year, I mean, we're probably going to go to the SEC or national championship. So you want to come and be part of this?" And I mean, I if you look at the kids who have transferred and the way they've entered the transfer portal and how quickly they've committed to other schools, it's so obvious that teams are just saying like, "Hey, man, hit the portal." We got a little so.
Alexander, looking at you.
Yeah, it's like, oh, hey, my high school classmate committed to Auburn and I went to Georgia, but Georgia coaches can't talk to me, but they can tell my classmate, why don't you text this guy and talk to him and let him know what's going on? And then it's like, oh, hey, actually I'm in the portal now. Oh, 2 days later, oh, hey, I'm committed to Texas A&M or whatever. It's like, hey, that's kind of weird. You didn't even visit. That's
Right?
Yeah, like, you didn't go to all these paid free visits. You just immediately went to the one school that you never had in your top 5 as a recruit a year ago, but now for sure you are. USC's for sure spending out the ass to get these kids, and they're definitely the worst offender of it to me.
Well, I don't think Lincoln Riley's made any overture into saying that they're not. I mean, I think that is the most obvious like transfer portal NIL like Kmart blue light special.
Yeah, like at least
And
FSU like got some kids. Like, one of their tight ends is from a Division II school, but he like tore it up. Jared Verse is from University of Albany. Like, FSU's done really well in the portal, but at least their kids have been like lower level kids, or maybe they bring in a one guy from a bigger school or whatever. But most of them have been like really good portal evaluations, and they bring them in. USC's just like, oh, Jordan Addison, the Bolitnikoff winner. Like, what? 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 Oh, come on over. $3 million? Yeah, we got that. Like, and then they still go 11-2 and lose to Utah twice. Like,
Hey man, we got you USC Trojans over here. Come on, come get in the panel van.
I don't believe in Lincoln Riley. He's got too much of the bad parts of Mike Leach in him still. If he's winning the fight, he'll continue to win. You punch him in the mouth, watch what happens. It happens every time. He can't pick up his teeth. Once you crack the Lincoln Riley code, they lose games exclusively. If he's got you on the run, he's got you on the ropes, and you can't figure it out. Boom! But he's like King Hippo. Once you get him in the mouth one good time, the whole fucking thing falls down and crumbles. You saw it in the Rose Bowl with us. You've seen it countless times. He's always going to have a Heisman quarterback. He's always going to have offense. He will never have defense. And if that's really the code, if you can weather the storm, crack that code, you'll beat Lincoln Riley. Which I don't believe they're ever going to they're never going to do anything. They're going to be another. Who's a good example of that? He'll be a Mac Brown without the championship. They'll be there. They'll be talked about because it's a national brand. That's as far as it's going to go.
At what point does he start faking heart conditions, though?
I don't know.
You just had to go there, man. You just had to go
when it
there.
comes to that kind of thing, though, you have to stand in awe of the master.
Yeah.
Oh, the thing is, though, that guy won titles. He won
He
titles.
did.
So
Plural.
That's not Riley has not done anything but score a whole bunch of points. He scored a bunch of points. Right.
So Napier's gotten a lot of shit for his bad first year, right? And deservedly so. Maybe I think it's gone too far. Obviously, I'm biased. I think he's gotten too much flack, especially when you remember that Brent Venables took over an 11-2 Oklahoma team and turned it into a 6-7 Oklahoma team, while Billy Napier took over a 6-7 Florida team and produced a 6-7 Florida team. And you would think that that would be a bigger deal, right? Like, he won 5 fewer games than his predecessor did.
Because his predecessor left and took 40% of the roster with him.
It wasn't 40%, though. He took 7 players from Oklahoma. He took their 7 best players for sure. Don't get me wrong. But Oklahoma brought in 25 transfers or something. And they played in the Big 12. The Big 12 is probably the 5th best conference, right? They're probably the P5th. Is that fair to say?
Are you putting them over Conference USA?
No, I'm putting them over. I'm putting them over the G5. But I mean, I think you have the SEC up here, the Big Ten kind of right below. I mean, I think the Big Ten's closed the gap a lot. I think that the quality in the middle of the Big Ten's and the bottom still isn't as good. But at the top, I think Ohio State, Michigan, they're not Georgia and Bama, but they're solid. They're better than everybody else, right? Except for those 2 teams, probably. And then in the ACC, you got Clemson. Until FSU shows me something, they're not in that conversation yet. They might have a great year this year, but they're not there yet. And in the Pac-12, I mean, it's just a grab bag. USC should dominate, but they don't. After that, it's Oregon, UCLA. They're kind of just all they might win 10 games, but they also are going to have 2 losses to a 4-8 team, and it just isn't going to make it just never makes any sense. And so then you have Big 12 to me, which is kind of I mean, I think the TCU game kind of highlights it, right? You're the best team in your conference. The TCU and Kansas State bowl games, it took Michigan throwing 2 pick sixes and fumbling the ball twice, and just a chaotic game for TCU to eke that one out. And then they go against Georgia, and you don't get any of that. You don't get any of the bounces, and you just get drilled for 3 hours straight.
Annihilated. Just annihilated.
When they scored that 1 touchdown, I was like, okay, maybe we're going to have a game. Maybe Georgia's going to go 3 and out, and TCU's going to have a pulse. And no, Georgia was just
watch those highlights anymore.
That's how you guys ever seen American History X?
No joy.
Yeah.
From that,
that's what Georgia did to TCU in the championship.
Even me, I'm like, eh. It's like one of the prequels. I'm like,
Yeah.
what is this doing for me?
Yeah, this doesn't move the needle.
I still watch the 18 national championship game. Just the trouncing of Bama. I can't help it. It's there.
Speaking of the Big 12, this tweet just came across my timeline. In 2016, Texas beat Notre Dame, and SportsCenter tweeted, "Texas is back." Texas has been 39-37 versus Power 5 opponents since then.
We're back.
But go ahead, they're back. Don't worry about it. They got Arch Manning. They're back.
Listen, y'all deal with them because they're gonna be in the west part. Y'all get them again. Shelby, y'all take care of them. Take care of them.
Okay. My idiot.
So
friend.
Shelby, riddle me this: would you rather have 1 year where you have Arkansas, Texas, Oklahoma, LSU, Missouri, basically your whole Big 8 gang from back in the day, and then the next year you don't have any of them and you just play the other SEC teams, or do you want to sprinkle them in together?
I'd rather mix them up. I know we're going to get Texas every year. Like, they'll be stupid to not give us Texas every year because that game's a big-ass moneymaker. The fact that we don't play now is stupid.
But I hate the fact that we're probably going to get stuck with Oklahoma every year. It's such bullshit.
Hey, it's the Jordan Bowl, man. Jordan branding. That's the only thing that you have in common.
Every year, it's going to be great.
I mean, it's just another artificial, forced marriage. Like,
so who are you going to get? Oklahoma and LSU and us?
No, from what I've seen, it's going to be Georgia, Oklahoma, and then either Kentucky or South Carolina, somebody in that range. Because that's one of the hang-ups that they've had to do, to where they don't want to saddle teams like Tennessee, for example. Tennessee could get stuck with like Bama, Georgia, Florida or something, and it's like, that's a fucking brutal, I know that, but then on top of that, you have Texas, Oklahoma, LSU, like this rotating schedule, to where previously you would have those 3 games, but then you'd have Vanderbilt, you would have Kentucky, Arkansas, Missouri. Now it's going to be your 3 bangers for sure, and then every other year you're going to have like 5 other absolute bangers. And so they have to find a way to balance that out, to where you're not sticking one team with their 3 brutal, like if Tennessee had Bama, Vanderbilt, and Texas A&M or whatever, it's a lot more balanced. But if they had, and then on every other year they would have Georgia, Florida, Texas, Oklahoma, whatever. So that's kind of the thing, that Georgia and Bama obviously are going to be your biggest hitters, to where you have to balance that out with whoever gets those teams every year. Then after that, they kind of have a scale, from what I've read, of like quality of teams or whatever. And so they try to weight each team's 3 permanent rivals to where it's a little bit competitive, as opposed to saddling Vanderbilt with Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama every year, and then they just never have a shot. Yeah, that sounds bad. That's
all I know. What does Texas have to do to come in the same way the Aggies did? They have to beat the national champion. They have to go 10-2, and they have to win in a year 6 bowl. I don't see any of that happening for them. And they have to have a generational quarterback, and Arch Manning.
Texas is also kind of doing the Texas A&M strategy of just buying a bunch of recruits up. So by the time 2024, 2025 rolls around, maybe they'll have that thing humming. I don't believe in Steve Sarkisian, so it doesn't really matter. But
we sent 25 dudes in the last 2 years. We haven't even touched on the draft.
I know, and I do not have
25 players in the last 2 years.
All I have to say about the draft.
But it's because Mechie went down. It's because Harrison went down. It has nothing to do with all of that. It has nothing to do with the fact that we have guys on the field that are going to the league. All of them. Every player from that 2021 defense, every single one of them is now a starter on an NFL team, or at least on an NFL team.
Or they are an NFL team in the Eagles. You know,
Like,
that's-
what is
They
going
are their own NFL team.
Howie Roseman is my new favorite Gator. What is this? Like, what is happening?
So I will give you the Mechie Jameson that excuse. That one is played out. The Harrison one, Harrison was eating y'all's ass up,
Harrison,
and they were blowing y'all's ass out.
Then quit putting pussies on the field and recruit better. I don't know what else to tell you. I'm good 3 deep. Why ain't you good 3 deep? That ain't my fault.
I mean, I totally
He ain't
can understand that, but you won by 1 point. Like, I think Marvin Harrison, the Mechie Williams one, that was like a 2 touchdown beatdown. The Marvin Harris won 1 point. Think about the end of the game field goal, right? Imagine a guy who had 150 yards or whatever in the first half. That I agree with you, Matt. Like, depth is key, right? Like, that's all that matters in football across every level, because guys get hurt. It's a physical game. So ultimately that excuse just doesn't really matter. But the fact that he went down in the game as opposed to being injured and then never actually – we actually saw how he looked in that game, and he was killing it. But ultimately it's just an excuse. I mean, Ohio State's put like 7 guys in the first round, 7 wide receivers in the first round. They put another guy in the first round.
He's a banger.
He should have been playing.
But if you could dig deep into the stats, by the third quarter, his bangingness had started to dwindle. And then he made the mistake.
He made the mistake.
He made the mistake of existing.
He made the mistake. Javon Bullard had something to say. Dre, I got something to say. And Ohio State didn't have an answer. So make excuses. It doesn't change the fact. Listen, if you're going to beat Georgia, you got to make that play on that kick, though. You got to make that field goal. Now, this is you got to
the
make
field goal. That kicker, I feel so. Ryan Day should have been fired on the spot for what he did to that kicker. The last 3 plays of that game, to where they got like -2 yards.
You got to coach. You got to make decisions. I'm telling you, listen, this is off subject, but I got to hammer this home. If you're going to beat us now, you've got to beat us 4 quarters, and it's got to start from the head coach all the way down to the water boy. There's no more getting by. There's no.
I mean, it also helps when the referees just, let you take a timeout and stuff when they.
That was completely legal.
Just like the hit on Harrison.
Just like the hit on Harrison, completely legal.
I want to keep fucking with you too, but you're right on both. Like, I can't.
That's the thing, though. Like, I won't press.
Like both, yeah. I've seen the replay, and both of those things were actually legitimate.
I've talked shit. I've antagonized everybody in this room. Maybe not you, Shelby. I've been me, but I've never told a lie.
Oh,
The only thing you can do on last year's game is tell a lie, and I won't do it. We beat you. You got to beat us. You got to start at the head coach. You got to go down to the water boy. There's no.
Adrian, to answer your question, yes, he was this confident. 5, 10,
Adrian,
15,
I'll let
30.
you know a little secret though. In
I've
2020,
been telling you this for 41 years. Now, where were you then? Maybe you
In
should have let us
2020
win one, because now we're not letting you win shit.
in 2020, me and him and another Georgia fan were all in a group chat together talking shit, and they both left at halftime. They were like, "Actually, I don't want that." At least hold on, I muted myself. At least I stand in the paint and get my ass whooped. I'm never gonna forget you and Mitch belling on the chat when
Shit on your own show. You disappeared for an entire season. I don't want to hear nothing.
that was, bro. That show's literally
An
called
entire
Behind the Hedges. How is that
season.
my show? It's literally 2
We were in
Georgia
the
guys
chat.
talking about.
Where's Ethan? I'm talking all this shit. Where's Ethan? Because you're getting your ass whooped.
Nah, I never left. I was there the whole time.
I don't care enough to go back and dig it up, but if I did, I would.
Oh God.
I mean, was I not there the whole time last year?
Last year, but the year before that, 21, you weren't there.
Hey, man, I got stuff going on.
You had things going on, like getting your ass whooped.
I actually had expectations that year. That last year, I didn't
You had
have
expectations about a
expectations.
certain coach, and who told you about that certain coach? Who told you? Say it. Who told you?
See, look, listen, see, I told you guys.
You didn't believe me my entire life. That just made my fucking
Graduated
night.
into a new class, Mr. Carr, and the new
I had
class-
children, Adrian. I had children. It softens you. It warms your cockles.
I got kids too. You know what though? On the shit,
I actually never bullied this guy though. I try to be a mentor to this guy.
I don't believe that.
on the
It's
shit
true.
Front,
All I know is all I
that
have to
takes
say
the edge
about the
off, man. You don't feel the need to like engage. Like I used to have to chase down every comment and go after every, and now I'm like, okay,
There you go. That I do
whatever
feel like
you say, whatever you say.
I do feel like the first year you felt the need to chase down every
Mm.
comment. Now that you've repeated, you're just like, okay.
Do you know what
Say
the most disappointing thing about Georgia winning back-to-back national championships is to me?
Sure.
When people get on me in the group chat, I can no longer post my 2 natties that nobody else had.
Oh,
I have no ammo anymore.
Feels bad.
It does.
I mean, you feel it from you feel it from some Florida. Well, you feel it from all of our enemies. Like when 1980 got snatched away, there's still people who go back to that. By the way,
I've seen
will
Florida
batter
fans
them
go
into a
back to that well, and I'm like, what the fuck are you?
I will
thinking?
push them into a corner, and they get so desperate. It's like it's like a dog that you've backed into a corner, and they're just like 1980, 40 years, it's been 40 years. I'm like, motherfucker, it's been 11 months.
364 days.
Like I'm going on 6. Where are you, Nebraska fan? These are like Nebraska fans, dude. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I told you. I got so much mileage out of that joke that when you guys finally got that monkey off your back, all the shit that got directed towards me, I knew I deserved it. And that's like, I have talked so much shit to Georgia fans my entire life that when it has finally come full circle, I know it's time for me to eat shit. Like that it sucked that happened. Like I would prefer to be another 41 years. But ultimately I know that I got 41 years worth of life out of that joke, and now it's time to move on.
Well, when were you born?
Okay. I got 31 years out of that joke.
Okay, so let's clarify.
I was born into that joke.
Like, old head Gator fans actually got 41 years out of it.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
they relished every second because they used to get it. They used to get that same shit from like my precursors.
Yeah, I was born into the Spurrier era. They were born into the fucking Charlie Pell and oh my god, what's his name, Dickey era. Like I didn't have to deal with any of that bullshit. Like they did. So understand. Shelby, please tell us what you have to say about the draft. We have cut
sorry.
you off so many times.
I just let y'all talk. It's making me laugh. No, all I have to say about the draft is I made so many comments about how Isaiah Spiller was better than Tank Bigsby, and it turns out that Devon Achane is also better than Tank Bigsby. So,
Oof. Answer your question, Adrian. Yes, I was a Florida fan at birth. My mom was born in Gainesville. My sister went to Shands at 5 days old. I did not stand a chance. All of my grandparents were Florida fans. I came out literally bleeding orange and blue. And that's probably true for everybody on here except for Mikey, who's born in South Georgia, but somehow is a Clemson fan.
What was the biggest surprise of this draft?
Anthony Richardson.
No, I don't think so.
I still don't
I
think he
think
deserves
Fleur
to
slipping out of the first because some prognosticators had him with a less than 1% chance of not being chosen in the first round, and yet it happened.
Anthony Richardson was pretty widely mocked as a top 5 or 10 pick.
Dude, there was
like
your boy the Chuckster was all about number 1 overall.
I mean, I saw a legitimate mock draft that had him at number 1. I think Bryce Young was clearly the number 1 pick. Like that, he's small and diminutive, but to me, I don't care. Like the dude can ball.
Biggest surprise to me in the draft, which I don't really watch NFL football anyway, so I'm in the dark. The Seattle Seahawks are still not sure if they actually drafted a football player in the first round. Devon Witherspoon from Illinois. Quarterback from Illinois. Devon Witherspoon.
That was, that's less surprising now that I know he's a corner, because I'm pretty sure on the draft thing it said he was a linebacker, and like when it popped up it said like LB Devon Witherspoon, and I'm like, what the fuck are they doing drafting a linebacker 5th overall? Like, unless he's Patrick Willis or something, like who drafts a linebacker that high? And then after I read some stuff about the draft, I was like, oh, he's a corner. Okay, Sauce Gardner went like 3rd overall. Derek Stingley went 3rd overall. That's a more high value pick. For me, it would be the.
He played football at Illinois.
So did Dave Butkus.
That was a different time.
Didn't Red Grange play for Illinois?
Again, different time.
Again, it's different.
Hey man, Illinois went to the Rose Bowl 10 years ago.
Will Levis fell out of the first round because he eats bananas wrong. He puts mayonnaise in his coffee, and he's a big giant weirdo he's just a weird dude.
He's an odd dude, man.
Like, that's part of the evaluation process, right? Like,
and his girlfriend is also currently the most eligible bachelorette.
The most surprising thing for me was Anthony Richardson's 13-year-old brother's voice.
Oh yeah, we just hear from my brother.
Oh yeah, I'm just happy for my brother. And the dude's he's just actually going through puberty, but somehow sounds like Barry White, like in Michael McDonald.
Sure, yeah. They're not feeding him anything funny. I was pleased to see Florida's most important streak continue, though. Never a first overall pick. Can you explain that?
And see, I went over this.
No, you haven't. This is the first time it's been brought up. So let's start from the beginning.
Have a first overall pick.
Despite Georgia's impressive punt, Florida still has more draft picks than Georgia.
I'm just talking about Florida.
I mean, that to me, that doesn't that's such an irrelevant thing.
Much like spring games, eh?
I mean, don't you agree? That was your opinion as well.
I said have fun with it. You
yeah, I mean, I really don't care. I mean, Florida's one of 3 teams to have a person drafted in every single draft. I think that's much more important than a first round pick or first overall pick. I think that the quantity of players Florida's had drafted is higher than anybody on this call right now, which I think is another very important metric. Although Georgia will almost assuredly pass us next year. I think we're like 1 ahead of you guys right now.
For what? Total draft picks?
Yeah. I think it's 367 to 366.
We were ahead of you all in total draft picks ever. I thought consecutive, maybe not, but are you sure?
Let's see.
Don't waste time on your show looking it up. Let's settle this in the chat. But I thought LSU and Georgia were like, oh no, that's active. That's like active NFL players on teams. There's so many like micro.
Yeah, so Florida is 9th all time with 372, and Georgia has 371.
I have Texas fans in my mentions freaking out about
all time.
Okay. Yeah, probably. I mean, we might pass y'all next year.
Yeah, almost.
But the thing is, Florida's never. That's not a surprise. Even in the darkest of times before you were born, and in the last, 5, 7, 8 years, whatever you want to call it, Florida's always had the dudes. Bear Bryant famously said back in I think the 60s, man, Florida ever finds a coach, we're all playing for second best. It was always there. So that's not
a sleeping giant.
You also, 39 players, I think, this past year from the state of Florida were drafted. Florida's still number 1 in volume of guys that go on to bigger and better things in the game of football. So,
and that's really the thing.
California's there, Georgia's there, but Florida's, as far as volume of dudes that grow up, play football, and go on to continue, that doesn't surprise me. You guys have to lock down your own state again.
And that's the thing that's really enabled both Alabama and Georgia to Yeah, Georgia produces enough talent that they could be self-sufficient. The state of Alabama,
It's blind, dude. I mean, to your point, like a lot of Bama likes to joke with us, like, oh well, Georgia's Alabama built with Kirby, which is horse shit. But what's not horse shit is if you go back and dig into their rosters the last 15 years, you are actually built by Georgia and Florida.
yeah,
So,
Mississippi and Alabama, I think have the highest number of professionals like per capita for the state. Maybe Louisiana, but those three states, like they may only put 10 guys into the league, but they have such a small population compared to Georgia and Florida that it's a higher percentage. But like that's the thing that Georgia has done excellently, particularly on the defensive line, right? Jalen Carter, Jordan Hall, like you guys come in here, Damon Wilson, like you guys come in here and Damon's. We never had a chance with Damon Wilson because his brother played for Florida back in like 2010 or something, or was recruited by Florida. But his brother had a fucking awful experience with Florida, so his family just was like, no, fuck, we're never even going to go there. I don't know what happened. This is
2010.
Approximately. It's been 10 or so years ago.
So. Was he a freshman? The brother.
I don't know.
Probably.
I'll look up I'll try and find the details for you and fill you in. But that was the reported reason from like actual staff beat writers for Florida. Was the family had a.
I still blame Urban Meyer for your miasma.
Bro, you don't have trust me. That's why all the Florida fans are just like, oh, Urban, come back. No, fuck Urban Meyer.
Oh, fuck that.
Like Urban Meyer needs to. Him and Dan Mullen and. Like everybody associate, you got Steve Adazio over there in Aggie Land. Like anybody associate. I don't want him. He was our offensive. He was our offensive coordinator for a year, and it was the worst. It was like Jim McElwain bad. But guys, we have been talking for an hour and a half. I told my wife this would be a short one. She said, "Do you want to make a bet?"
And we've touched two topics.
Like we didn't even get to softball or baseball or anything.
The fact that A&M and Florida play baseball starting tomorrow, and we didn't mention it.
We haven't really even touched on the draft. That just came about now. And before that, it was spring ball, which no one cares about, and yet we've talked 1 hour and 20
Ducati said he was only going to be on for a few minutes.
I'm going to be late for work. Probably have to call out. Like, this is how this goes, folks. This is why you should subscribe and like.
This is why this is what passion looks like, right? Like this is a bunch of people just talking about something they love with no inside information, no professional knowledge. We just like to talk about it.
Actually, what this is three dads whose kids are already in bed and Shelby.
whose cats are waiting for her to get off.
So I saw a
25 children. Yeah.
I have 25 children counting on me tomorrow.
Adrian, no, this show is not always about football. If you want
to give the show is rarely about football.
Yeah, if you want to give our friends at SEC Field of Streams a follow, all they care about is football. Shelby and I like to talk about baseball, softball, basketball, golf, lacrosse. Florida's women's lacrosse team was playing. I was watching that earlier. My daughter wants to know what lacrosse is and learn about it. So, no, this SEC biased, we like to touch on everything. Phrasing. SEC Field of Streams, they specifically only care about the pigskin. But they also talk a lot about Georgia. So,
you better be ready to talk about the best.
Yeah. And if you don't think they're the best, they're going to tell you they're the best 800 times.
Yeah, but all 800 times we are right. Tell me something else.
Yeah, until you beat the best.
It's coming. Like I get it. I'm envisioning. I've fantasized about the first game we lose against one of you sacks of shit. It's going to be like we're going to lose a home game. Screw it. We're rushing the field anyway. Like it's coming,
bro. I will fucking thank God we play in Jacksonville because if Florida actually beat Georgia and rushed the field, I would just be that would upset me more than losing to Georgia.
It should. You should not.
It does. I am vehemently against rushing the field.
Tennessee fans got off so much on that field rush, and the rest of the universe was looking at them going, "You are the most desperate creature."
FSU rushed the field after beating a 6-5 Florida team.
We rushed the field after beating LSU. I'm just saying.
Like, stop rushing the field.
We rush the field after every game because it's a tradition.
Yeah, you guys rush the field in the same way that, like, the person in the hover round rushes to the grocery store. Your fans just casually walk out there and just look around and hold hands and sing. Like,
Wait,
I respect it, though.
Too?
What?
Are they a cult, too? They're holding hands and singing? We do that.
They're definitely a cult.
Dabo's dabbling. He's trying to get into that cult grind.
Don't rush,
guys. I gotta go. I'm gonna be in trouble. Any parting wisdom? Any parting words? Look at the symmetry here, though. Look at this.
I have to say that I have Texas fans in my mentions freaking out because Bijan Robinson was drafted in the first round, and somebody asked me, "When was the last time the Aggies had someone drafted first overall?" And I said, Myles Garrett says hello. And they never.
When's the last time Texas had somebody drafted first overall?
I don't know.
By the way,
it's been a while.
Georgia's not the last person to go back to back, or last team to go back to back in this chat, because Clemson went 28 and 29 with Miles Murphy and Brian Brzee in the first round. So there you go.
Wait, back to back in what?
Draft picks.
Just back to back in general.
Oh, back to back in draft picks?
Just in general. Just
the phrase. Just the phrase back to back.
I'll never went back to back in national championship.
Like Forrest and Bubba slept back to back, you know.
My closing will be coming. You can call me 3-Pac Shagur next January.
Oh, God.
Show me somebody that's going to stop it. And you can't. You know it. It's coming. Fantasize, really dig in deep, pay attention to it, try to find me a way that it's not going to happen. But we're joining Minnesota, guys. It's going to be Georgia and the Golden Gophers as your most recent 3-time consecutive undisputed national champions.
You want to know the best username that I've seen from a Georgia fan? Back to back to back. That, to me, it was when I saw that username, as much as I hated it, it felt like a chef's kiss, because it was like back to back to back. And I was like, God damn, that works so well. I hate it.
Was it like the word back with the number 2, back to back?
No, back to back to back, as in Carson Beck.
Oh, back to back to Beck.
Oh, yeah. You see, yeah.
I didn't hear that. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's pretty good.
And I told you all last year, Universe does not like repeats. I was doubtful. Here we are again. We'll see. I don't know.
He's a great heel. He knows what he's doing.
Please do. If you didn't love us before, please hate us now. I welcome it. But I don't know, man. We got a shit ass schedule. We got a Bama schedule, and I'm proud. You're just mad because you ain't got it. You would take it if you could. Trying to do what we're trying to do. It lines up nicely. We'll see what happens.
I've got a friend that has like 12 or 13 season tickets to Georgia, and with what the home schedule looks like this year, he said that his tickets are not even worth what he's paying for them.
We had Oklahoma. It got canceled somehow with the realignment, I guess. Yeah. I didn't see any of the teams who bitched the most raise their hands. I mean, I guess they have better things to do. Their schedules are set. They don't want to get their ass kicked by UGA. I get it.
What's up with all these schedules being set all 10 of a sudden, years ahead of time?
We get dealt a bad hand, and you can't make a change. Ohio State, if you're so concerned about our non-con schedule, where were you? I don't get it.
So someone asked Texas about schedules being set.
Yeah, Texas, where were you?
See, this is my favorite argument from others. So the hardest out-of-conference opponent for Miami is who?
A&M.
Texas A&M. The hardest out of conference opponent for Clemson would be who?
Notre Dame.
No, they're ACC. We're counting them for ACC for the sake of this conversation. It would be
Okay.
South Carolina. The hardest out of conference opponent for FSU, LSU, SEC. Every team who wants to be anything, especially in the ACC, their hardest out of conference opponent is an SEC opponent.
Yeah.
But then they want to say the SEC has a weak out of conference schedule. And it's like, well, I'm sorry that we have 100-year rivalry with shitty teams. Like, what should we cancel those? And then you have teams like Florida. Well, we're playing the Pac-12 champion. Like Georgia would have been playing Oklahoma. Texas A&M was expecting Miami to be competent. Not really your fault, Like
Fault.
the SEC, Alabama's playing Texas. Like, what are we supposed to do on top of all of the other games that we're going to play? Which, by the way, what's up with that? Alabama's playing Texas, but Georgia's Oklahoma game got canceled?
Yeah, my question.
Because we all want to see Texas lose. No one gives a shit about Oklahoma.
I want to see them lose too. All right, I got to go. I got to do my walk of shame to my wife from the I promise, baby, it'll be quick. An hour and a half later, she's going to be like, really?
First time that's ever happened?
Yeah.
God damn it.
I gotta be up in like 5 hours, so I'm gonna bounce too. But just letting y'all know, great to be here, great to catch up. Hope we get to do it again soon. Hope me and Mitch get back to going. Hope the whole thing gets going. Can't wait for the season. Although we all know how it's gonna turn out. So I guess you guys don't have much to look forward to. With that, I'm out.
Adios.
Bye, everybody.
Later, guys.